Championship week in college football. The transfer portal is already humming, even though it officially opens on Monday. Names are all over the place. Good stuff going on across the board. You got Zach Smith here from Menace to Sports. And Zach comes your way each and every day here on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern time. Zach, what's going on?
Not much, man. Just recovering from a brutal loss here in Columbus, Ohio. You'd think everybody's pet died.
That's the deal. Okay, let's go right there. This is like a drug to Ohio State fans. Ooh. Unlike any other game on the landscape. I used to think, and I grew up in the middle of it in regards to not like you grew up in the middle of it, but in terms of loving the game and being here in Ohio in the Buckeye State. And then I went and worked in the SEC for 7 years and covered the games, was in the locker rooms, the whole deal for 7 years. And they convinced me, okay, even though my heart was back in Ohio, well, we care about football more than you do. And I thought, well, you don't care more about football than I do, but yeah, then a lot of people, okay, I'll get it. And I remember driving back to the South one summer, like May, June, and I pick up an Alabama-Auburn argument like in the middle of June. And I thought, yeah, this is pretty extreme. They have sold me on that it's brother versus brother and the whole deal in state, and it doesn't get worse than that. I don't know. I think I'm not seeing that out of Alabama and Auburn fans. Like what they just did on Saturday was just like the end all be all. It doesn't, nothing else matters.
Well, I think the biggest thing is it's easy for a rivalry to be insanely heated when both teams are top five or both teams are really good. You really find out how big the rivalry is when either one team's down, both teams are down. That's when you really see, because Ohio State and Michigan, I mean, you look back the last 25 years, several years, one team was kind of on top, the other team wasn't, and those games are just as heated as the one I just watched. Yeah. You look at Alabama, Auburn had 9 million viewers. Ohio State, Michigan had 19 million. And I know a lot of that was national landscape watching a top five matchup, but that game is always going to be one of the most watched games in the country because it doesn't matter to Ohio State fans how good either team is. It's an all-out bitter war.
So, Zach, when you look at these two programs, because we're going to get you to outline your fix for Ohio State here, because if you go one end of the spectrum, it's Ryan Day needs to go. That's it. You can't lose this game. That's all there is to it. And you go the other end of the spectrum, and it's you can't fire somebody or go to drastic measures when you're 11-1 every year and you're a top 3 to 5 in the country and all of that. Maybe somewhere in the middle, there obviously have to be some changes to the program, but top 5 recruiting classes, you're winning 11 games. He's got a better record than anybody not named Kirby Smart or Nick Saban. What has to change here? And then we also saw a different game on Saturday than what we saw the last 2 years. They were 35 yards away from winning the game.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great game. Taking myself out of the rivalry, that was a great top 5 matchup. You know what I mean? Somebody had to win. Both teams are exceptional. Both teams are similar. I think both teams aren't the best passing offenses in the country. They both run the ball really well, and both defenses are suffocating. Top 5, top 3 in the country. So what needs to change at Ohio State, just from what I've heard, what I'm feeling here in Columbus, number one, I think Kyle McCord either needs to get, light years better, or they need to make a change at quarterback. I mean, he has thrown the 13th most turnover-worthy throws this year in the country. And I saw it every week on film. And every week it's like, wow, they didn't intercept it. So you don't see it on the stat line, but you watch the film and you're like, this kid is just, he's not an accurate quarterback. And what I really question is his competitive fire. Everyone I talked to said pregame, he's talking about don't make mistakes. You can't play college football and your mentality going into the game is don't make mistakes. That's when you make mistakes, playing timid, not playing aggressive. And that's the biggest difference, I think, in this program now from when I was there, was the last thing you would ever say on game day is anything about mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen. You want your team to play as hard as they possibly can, go as hard as they can, and make plays. That's what you're trying to do on game day. If you're playing to not make mistakes, that's where you play timid. That's where you throw the ball to the other team because you're nervous. There's no confidence. And that's the biggest thing I see from this program that needs fixed.
Zach, you're probably sick of combing through this game, but I'm going to take you back through it here. The first point I'm going to bring up, I'm just going to bring up specifics in the game that caught me. And I got like 12 notebook pages of stuff when I watch a game like that. But the first one is you're not going to have any answer to this, but I just want to get your reaction. Third play of the game, you got a 3rd and 5 or whatever the distance was. Emeka Buka, the play's perfect. Everything's lined up perfect. Boom, the ball. You got on the sideline in a situation like that. Just like when you're a coach, be like, what do we have to do? Like, you can't drop that pass.
It's brutal. It's brutal. And it's brutal because they set themselves up for the easiest conversion of the day. I mean, they went tempo. Michigan was not ready for it. They weren't even looking at, I mean, they were looking at the sideline. I mean, it was truly routes on air. I mean, how you don't convert that is mind-blowing, and it really was indicative of what was to come. I mean, it was a horrid throw on his back hip on a slant, like and it's right in front of him. I mean, you're talking 6 yards away. He throws it on his back hip, and then Emeka to take his eyes off and drop it. It's like, this is fundamental execution. Like, they should have done that 8,000 times to the point where they get in that game. There's no way they're not converting that. There's no way, because they've done it so many times. It was just disheartening, to say the least.
And every time I see a receiver drop a pass in any football game that leads to the defense getting off the field, my first thought is, how many possessions do you get in a game, especially that's played like this? Whatever you get, 8 to 12 possessions, that killed one. The defense didn't have to do anything. That killed one.
Yep.
Xavier Johnson, they get the ball the next time. He goes for 9 yards on a 3rd and 10. I thought it was a bad spot. I didn't necessarily think that they got the first down for sure, but I thought they were more like that far away than that far away or whatever it was. But no review, no nothing.
Nothing. Just crazy. The whole review process is getting absurd. Like,
I'm sorry, Zach. Is Ryan Day too involved in the play calling? Not to.
I mean, I don't know. I think he's engaged in the game. I mean, I don't think the play calling has anything to do with it. I think he's making it. I think he probably felt like they were short, whether it was 1 yard, half a yard and a half. And I'm sure he decided he wasn't going to go for it. He was going to punt regardless. So there's no need.
Another sequence, and people focused on the field goal at the end of the first half. I'm going to get to that, but I'm going to start with the beginning of the drive. And when the plays don't work, it's always easy to be a fan, armchair quarterback, after the play doesn't work and say, what are you doing? So the Michigan punter cues the shot down to the 1.5 yard line. So they're sitting there, and they're just not running the ball at that point in the game. And I think they go Travion Henderson off tackle twice, and it's a brick wall. Yeah. So they set up McCord on a 3rd and 9.5, and Julian Fleming basically bails out Ryan Day with a catch on because otherwise they punt from the end zone. There's still 2.5 minutes left in the half. Michigan's going to get the ball at the 35 or 40, and they're going in for a 2-score lead. Yep. So Fleming bails them out, and then they hit the play to Harrison, and they're in good shape. Well, you know where I'm getting to. So that was my first thought. I just thought, I understand he just threw a pick in his own end of the field, but don't they have to trust him a little bit, because they are not running for a first down here. And then they're putting him in a bad spot on 3rd and 10, standing in his own end zone.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get the first run, right? To just get a little breathing room, right? That's always, anytime you're on the 1 or inside the 1 for sure, you're just trying to like get a little bit of space. And then I thought 2nd down, they should have went play action. They should have done something. Maybe even the 3rd down call, a nice little sprint out, something, just an easy completion. And you might not get the first down, but you're just give yourself a little more breathing room and a more convertible 3rd down. I wasn't a fan of going back to the run on 2nd down.
So where do you stand on 4th and 2? They're at the 33, and they've just moved the ball. They're rolling to a certain extent. They get a couple nice pass completions. They're down by 4. If they don't get the 4th and 2, there's like 30 seconds left. Michigan may take a knee. Who knows? Maybe they're aggressive, but you trust your defense. You got a top defense, and they've got to drive it 35 or 40 yards to be in a field goal range. Don't you go for it on 4th and 2?
I think you absolutely do. But it just, Ryan didn't trust the run game at that point, and he doesn't trust his quarterback. And he coached like it. He called plays like it. I mean, you look at what Sharon Moore did on 4th down, doing a handoff halfback pass. It's like it just felt like you should have something in your chamber that catches them off guard that they're not expecting. Maybe a trick play, maybe not even a trick play, just something stylistically they aren't expecting to try to get a conversion there. And if you do, you might march down and score. I think he absolutely should have went for it.
Yeah, I just think even if you don't trust those guys, you trust your defense. And
Absolutely.
it's not like you got, I'm not knocking the field goal kicker, but he had never kicked one that far.
Right.
And I understand it's not the end of the game pressure, but it's still, you're in the big house in the biggest game of the year. It's still pressure. And so they waste 65 yards of offense there. And they outgained Michigan on the day. I come away from that game, and I hate to say it on here, Michigan fans kill me for it. The better team doesn't always win the game.
No.
And they've got the evidence. I understand that, but I still think that Ohio State's slightly better.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't. And maybe it's because kind of over-analysis leads to paralysis. Like I've evaluated Kyle McCord for 12 games, and I think JJ McCarthy gives you a better chance to win. Ohio State's better in pass pro, but JJ McCarthy throws the ball better than Kyle does. And he plays like with an it factor. Kyle plays scared. And it's just, I think Michigan wins again if they play in Columbus even.
So that's your difference, those two.
Yeah, okay. Those two. I think the defenses are very comparable, both ridiculous. The run games are pretty similar. I mean, Travion Henderson is the better of the 3 backs that really carry the ball. But it's just the quarterback play for me.
So have you seen, obviously not in games, but enough of Devin Brown to have a feel for whether you let him compete for the job or all these transfer portal quarterbacks are going to be out there, whether you're diving in the portal?
Yeah, so I said it on my show yesterday. If I'm Ryan Day, there's 0% chance I'm not bringing in a transfer quarterback. And that's not because you feel like your quarterbacks stink and you got to do it. I think of what Lane Kiffin did at Ole Miss, what Nick Saban did at Alabama. They brought in, Tyler Buckner. They brought in Spencer Sanders. And it's like they got a transfer portal quarterback. And what did it do? It just threw another stoke in the fire and made the competition even bigger. And now Jalen Milroe's playing better than we thought he could, right? And you're looking at Jackson Dart, who's had a really good year. So I think you go get a transfer quarterback and tell him, listen, this is a wide open job, and let him come in. And then Devin Brown, I've heard great things about him. I know he definitely has that it factor. The offense moves a little bit better, but he just didn't throw the ball well enough when he played to make me think he's better than Kyle. I just think you need another option. And not that Kyle can't elevate his game next year or Devin can't win the job. I just think you need one more body in there that just to have a better chance that you come out of this with a really good quarterback.
Is there a reason that I think Davison Igbinosun, he's the only major impact player? Josh Simmons at left tackle. Okay. Those 2 guys are the only transfers that I can think of that had an impact on this team to a large extent, where Michigan, it's 3 and 4 offensive linemen. It's a corner. It's all over the place, where they've been more impactful to make up that recruiting gap in the portal.
Yeah. Ohio State kind of, I don't want to say they swung and missed in the portal that last cycle. It felt like they weren't aggressively attacking the portal like other schools were. I mean, going back all the way to the year before, when they basically just didn't even talk to Elias Ricks when he went in the portal. And you're like, what are we? You're literally 1 corner away on defense, and you don't go talk to the 5-star number 1 corner in the country. And Alabama did, and the rest is history. I think they really need to change their transfer portal approach, and it's been position by position. In the secondary, they have no problem hitting the portal. Offensive line, they got backup center Vic Cutler and Josh Simmons. But certain position groups, it's like they don't want to do it, or they don't like doing it, and I think it's a huge mistake.
They got a reverse flip to Miami and Justin Scott, the defensive lineman from Chicago. Is there anything to that you know of, or is it just happen? It's going to happen, of course. But is there anything there?
It happened to Ohio State with Miami last year with the running back from American Heritage. His name's
Mark Fletcher.
Yeah, Mark Fletcher. So I think Miami's doing what A&M's doing, Tennessee's doing. It's that B tier school that is just so desperate to be an A-tier school. And so they're just spending money like no one else in the country on recruits. And Ohio State's not going to do that. Bama's not going to do that. Georgia's not going to do that. And so they came in and offered this kid, there's numbers thrown around. I believe they're all inflated because people are dramatic, but they threw a lot of money at the kid, and now he's going to go be a Hurricane.
Q Ray Walker, appreciate you being here, man. Mark, it's been a long time. Keep up the great work. Zach, you're one of the best, and I'm going to sign up for your film review, and I can't read the rest of that, but appreciate you being here, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so in regards again to the program culture, whatever you want to call it, what can be done about getting from about 95% to the ceiling to busting through the ceiling
for Ohio State?
Yeah.
I think you look at what Ryan Day's done. He's always had a first round quarterback, right? And that's and I know he's dropped 3. He dropped 2 to Michigan with a first round quarterback, but his offense really isn't great unless he has that elite quarterback play. It's not like Michigan, even Urban's offense. Urban's offense, you could get away with the JT Barrett. Even Cardale Jones was not a first round quarterback because of the run game, because of the quarterback run. Like stylistically, Ryan's offense, you're going to get loaded boxes. The run game's going to be impossible because everybody's low unless you can open up the throw game and make them pay. And I put out a clip on social media because the Buckeye beat reporters or whatever you want to call them have been defending Kyle, saying he wasn't the problem. It was this, and I'm watching the film like, what are you seeing? Like, so I put it out. There was probably 3 like no brainer, don't even have to be a first round quarterback touchdowns that Kyle just he misread the coverage or he skipped through his reads. And you're looking at it like, oh my gosh, there was a play. They ran smash, right? A corner route with a flat route. And Kyle, you're supposed to take a 3-step drop and read the corner, high-low, right? If he sits, you throw the corner route behind him. If he gets depth, you throw the flat route. Kyle didn't even take a drop. He didn't take a 3-step drop. He caught the ball, took 1 step, and threw the flat route. And Julian Fleming is coming so open for a touchdown. It's insane. And misreads happen, but not taking a drop, that tells me he's just very nervous in the pocket.
Zach Smith here from Menace to Sports. All right. Well, I got to say, I've been a little kind to Kyle McCord as well. Maybe that comes more from just seeing the guy get just bashed and just kind of defending him just because I don't like to see guys get bashed. But, business is business. No doubt about that. Looking at the conference championship games coming up this weekend, which one catches your eye?
Well, I mean, I think really the SEC and Pac-12, those are going to be the 2 that are just, phenomenal games. I think both are going to be outstanding. I'm excited to watch Oregon hopefully get their get back on Washington. I think Oregon's I think they have a real shot to win a national championship. They're one of the most complete teams in the country. And I think their offense and defense complement each other. And I love what they're doing offensively with Bo Nix. And then Alabama, Georgia, because I've watched Georgia. I've broken down probably 5 Georgia films in my coach's film room. And I like Georgia. They're a really good football team, but they are not what they were last year, defensively at least. And if Alabama can beat them, it's one of those wrenches that you throw and cause college football chaos. So I'm excited for both of those games. The Big Ten championship, I don't think it's going to be a good game. I obviously think Michigan will win. I don't know that Iowa will move the ball 1 yard, but that Iowa defense is legitimate. They are really good. And I want to see this offense, the J.J. McCarthy experience, go against this rush defense. And I want to see if they're able to do what they did to Penn State and to an extent Ohio State, especially in that one drive. I want to see if they can do it again.
I get into debates all the time about Big Ten defenses versus how bad the offenses are from people outside the conference. Where do you stand on that? Because you look at the stats, obviously the top Big Ten defenses are at the top of the nation. These horrible offenses are at the bottom. Iowa's the classic example. How much of it's defense? How much of it's offense when evaluating the Big Ten?
It's such a hamster wheel, right? Like you can debate it all day long, and you never really find out till you get to a bowl game. I think back to last year where Ohio State had an okay defense, and Georgia had the best defense ever assembled, and Ohio State hung 49 on them. It's like it's all relative, right? I think this year specifically, the Big Ten's a little bit better offensively than at times. Like Maryland is a really solid offense. Penn State, outside of throwing the ball down the field, pretty good offense. Ohio State, Michigan, I think there's decent offense in this league. And I don't know that the SEC has that much better offensive football. Like LSU, certainly. I don't know that anyone is doing what Jaden Daniels is doing in Louisiana. But I watch Alabama is an explosive offense. Jalen Milroe launches it down the field a bunch. But you're telling me that like Mississippi State's offense is really attractive? Like it's really efficient? No. I mean, there's plenty of bad offenses in the SEC too.
Auburn can't throw the ball for a yard.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Which makes it amazing that they ran the ball on Georgia and Alabama because they had no threat of a pass down there this year. So how do you size up the playoff field? Not talking about this specific playoff field, but are you a metrics guy, eyeball test? How do you put it all together?
So I honestly, every year I say it, I just want the best 4 teams. I don't really care about like one loss, like strength of record. Like when I watch these teams play, I watch for hand placement, tackling, blocking, fundamental stuff to see how good is this team actually? Because we've seen it several times where you get a Notre Dame team or a Pac-12 team that goes undefeated because it's horrible competition. And then they get in a playoff and get boat race. But if you watched them all year long, you're like, man, they're getting away with a lot of missed blocks and just guys that can't tackle on the opposing team. So I'm really big on what they call the eye test, just because I think it matters. I think to sit here and say Alabama's not one of the best 4 teams in the country because they lost to Texas in week 2 with a rookie quarterback. Like, I don't think that matters at the end of the year as much as people make it out to be. And I think the committee's kind of living that way right now. There's no way should Oregon be the highest ranked 1-loss team in the country, having beaten no one, essentially. Oregon State this past weekend being their best win compared to the other resumes of 1-loss teams. But when I watch them, I think Oregon's better than the other 1-loss teams. So I get it.
So who are your top 4 teams?
So I think Oregon's gonna beat Washington, avenge their loss. They'll be in. I don't see Florida State losing to Louisville. I don't see Michigan losing to Iowa. And I'm just back and forth on Georgia, Bama. And if it's one of those things, if Georgia wins, obviously they're in. That's my 4. If Bama wins, now they're in a world of problems because you'll have a 1-loss Big 12 champ, Texas, I think, although I really like Oklahoma State and what they're doing defensively, that beat 1-loss SEC champ Alabama. So now it's back to that same conversation. Like they played, Texas won. How could you put Bama in over them?
You think Oklahoma State's got a shot in this game?
No, I think Texas is going to win the game. I think Oklahoma State. I'm just shocked at Mike Gundy. He gets his coaches poached more than anyone in the country. And then he hires a guy from Gannon University and everyone's like, what? And the defense is phenomenal. You're like, how does he find these people?
Where is Gannon University?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
It
might be in Canada.
Rich Gannon. Okay. But it sounded like you were sizing up who's going to make it. Do you think those are the 4 best teams? Who are your 4 best teams?
4 best teams in college football. I would say probably Michigan, Georgia, Bama, and Oregon. I think Florida State without Jordan Travis. I mean, obviously they'll get in if they're undefeated, but I don't think they're going to win a playoff game against any of the top 8.
When we look at the transfer portal, it's obviously going to keep going and rolling. And look at the quarterback position. KJ Jefferson's out there, Grayson McCall, Riley Leonard, Will Rogers, who the last time I saw him, he was obviously hurt. He couldn't throw an out route. But is there anybody out there, Cam Ward, that you really like?
If I was sitting in Ryan Day's chair, the 2 that I'm aggressively pursuing are DJU and Cam Ward. Those are. I mean, I would love Riley Leonard, but he sounds like he is the Sam Hartman of last year, where it's like I'm entering the portal, but I already committed, even though we couldn't talk to each other. It's like, what? That's illegal. How did that happen? So those are the 2 I'm going with because both of them are decent athletes. DJU's not as good an athlete as Cam Ward, but those are 2 that I think bring in a different dynamic in the room. So those are my 2 that I'm entertaining, and especially with Ryan and how deep that Ohio State went with DJ's younger brother in recruiting. Like, that's not strangers meeting and talking about transferring. Like, they know that family really well.
I'm guessing that some people are going to raise some questions, including myself to a certain extent, about DJ, because the first year I saw him at Clemson, I think 9 touchdowns and 10 picks.
Yeah.
But the receiver play at Clemson just nosedived after a decade of excellence, and his offensive line was good. He bounced back his last year there. A lot of people didn't recognize that, and was a much better quarterback. But still, I don't see him as an Ohio State level QB. What do you see in there?
No, I don't either. I think he's the equivalent of Tyler Buckner going to Notre Dame, right? Tyler Buckner was not a Bama level quarterback, but they went and got him because the guy has a ton of experience and he's square jawed, and he can be Kyle McCord of this year without the timidness. I don't think he's going to be a Heisman candidate. But I think if DJU was the quarterback on Saturday, Ohio State wins that game.
Wow. Would mobility factor into your decision?
Yo, for sure.
Do you think Ryan Day values that?
No, no, I don't.
I didn't think so.
No, I mean, look at CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud didn't have a rushing touchdown as a starting quarterback at Ohio State for 2 years. He had one in his career when he was a backup his first year. You watch him in the NFL, the dude just had one on Sunday. It's like something about the quarterback running, it's just right. It terrifies him that they're going to get hurt or whatever the reason is. But the other side of it is, what I didn't see all year from Ohio State was a scramble drill. Like, Kyle never scrambles. I'm not saying runs it, but just extends the play and lets guys run the scramble drill, because there's a ton of big plays that happen on scramble drills. I think that's what they're missing. CJ used to do it. He would never cross the line of scrimmage, but he would scramble and try to find somebody downfield. That's the biggest thing this offense is missing.
Yeah, 2 of the biggest plays for Michigan, they weren't big yardage, but were scrambles where JJ went down to the sideline and threw that dot, and then the other one he threw across the field and got away with it.
Yep, and I don't know this as fact, but I don't remember one for Ohio State in that game.
CJ was obviously amazing at Ohio State. Does it look like he's getting even more advanced coaching? Because he's just, for him to play as well in his rookie year as he was last year at the college level.
Yeah, I don't know what he's getting, but we need to crack that code, because he is – I don't know that we've seen a better rookie quarterback ever. He's just ridiculous. And we saw it against Georgia, and that was the biggest thing after last year, after they lost to Georgia, was like he can do it, because I hadn't seen it in the previous 23 games or whatever he played. I hadn't seen him have that fire, just dice people up, scramble when he had to. And he brought it out against Georgia. And I said, if he plays like that in the NFL, he's the best quarterback in this draft. If he plays like he played the first 23, he's going to be a bust. And I don't know if that Georgia game, a switch was flipped, but man, is he doing it.
Get the real Hayden here. Appreciate the 5 spot. Resident Iowa fan. Just want to hear what Zach's thoughts are about Iowa this year, and bigger picture, his thoughts on Kirk Ferentz's legacy.
I honestly don't know how you watch the games as an Iowa fan. Like, I tried to break down, I think it was Iowa Penn State, and I got halfway through Iowa's offensive film and I turned it off. I stopped breaking it down. And I told my subscribers, I was like, I'm not doing this to you guys. I'm not doing this to myself. It's the most atrocious thing I've ever watched, ever.
4 first downs.
Right. And my co-host Chris brought it up. He was like, if I was at Iowa, Brian Ferenz, like in my last year, I'm recruiting Cooper DeJean to be a Wildcat quarterback. And that's what we're running all game long. And if that happened, I'd watch. But the defense is outstanding. I love Iowa's defense. They're good every year. And I think they're suffocating. I think they're going to give Michigan problems in the Big Ten championship game.
Cooper DeJean obviously hurt now, but when you're struggling to that degree and your best athlete, I understand he's a gunner. He's returning kicks. He's on the field. And that's what Kirk said a number of times in news conferences. That's why we don't put him on offense. He's already doing it. Don't you put him out maybe a dozen plays? He doesn't have to get the ball a dozen times, but 3 or 4 times. And then he's a great decoy the other times.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we saw it with Charles Woodson, right? We've seen it a handful of times. And when you're that inept on one side of the ball, it's like, what? How do you not? I mean, you see what Dion doesn't care. He's just, Travis Hunter's going to do everything. He's like, no, I need him here. I need him here. I need him here. And he's going to have to get some Gatorade in between. I don't know how you don't. And it's one of those things where as a team, how much better would they be with another corner in on defense and him playing offense? Like, Iowa's a better version of Iowa if they did that. Now, it might be kind of, not in what's best for Cooper DeJean, but for the team, they need something on offense.
Now, see, I'm on the flip side of the entertainment on the Iowa games. Now, if that was all the football I was watching, it would be one thing. But like that Nebraska game, you've got like passes batted at the line. It looks like it's like every third pass because the quarterbacks don't know how to read the lanes and so forth. They get passes batted in their face constantly. We had interceptions all over the place. We had 2 blocked kicks. You get a lot of that. If you love punting inside the 5-yard line, you get a lot of that.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's just because I was an offensive coach. It's painful. It's painful to watch, but it is like watching a train wreck. I mean, when you're watching it, you're like, oh gosh, I can't stop watching. This is awful.
Zach, are you one of these people? And I do this because I'm naturally one of these people. Secondly, I do this so people want to hear this. That is tried to figure out some kind of navigated some path for Ohio State to get to the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I think in reality they need Georgia to win, so there's not some one-loss Bama, one-loss Georgia. They need to eliminate one of the SEC teams. Florida State needs to lose to Louisville, and then Texas probably has to lose also. And then Washington, Oregon, I think whoever wins that is in no matter what.
All right. Great stuff with Zach Smith, Menace the Sports. Zach, we always appreciate you jumping on here and breaking things down for us, man.
I appreciate you having me on. Always fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
All right. Thanks.
Great stuff from Zach Smith. Always learn a lot. Menace the Sports. You guys already know it. Noon Eastern time every Monday through Friday. We will be back. I was thinking about doing a transfer quarterback portal live stream, but we may wait a few days and wait until the portal officially opens. But we've already got Cam Ward, Will Rogers, Grayson McCall, and on down the line, Riley Leonard and others. But KJ Jefferson, a lot of interesting candidates in the transfer portal at quarterback and other positions, of course. But the graduate assistants, the grad transfers are obviously the ones that we've seen already. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. Next stop is the Iowa channel at 3:30 Eastern time. Another Big Ten Championship preview. Got some Iowa media jumping on with us to break down the Hawkeyes and the Wolverines. So again, 3:30 Eastern over on the Iowa channel. And I've got a Michigan-Iowa comp that was just posted here on the main channel. Check that out. We've got a Pac-12 championship preview, a Big Ten championship preview, the SEC. We've got the Florida State live show that we delivered last night with James Coleman, Chris Frazier, and George Georgitis of Renegade Report. So check it out. We've covered all the championship games, top to bottom. We've got betting segments with Steve Merrill from Wager Talk, and he, of course, one of the top sports handicappers that we have on here each and every week. So he runs down the landscape of college football and breaks it down for us as well. Appreciate you all being here. Again, 3:30 Eastern, about 1 hour from right now over on the Iowa channel. We will see you then. Let's see if there's anything in the chat we need to hit on. Oh, come on, the Rod Farva. The Iowa channel has been the same over the years, complaining about the offense. Yes, but we do bring some fun to it. No doubt about that. Not just complaining about it, having fun with I did a Michigan-Iowa comp. If you guys didn't check out the video, and it's just hilarious to run down the numbers of the comp of the 6 opponents between Michigan, 6 common opponents, Michigan, Iowa. Oh, yes. Toxic Reaper Gaming. I went the quarterback from Kansas State. Didn't mention him. Will Howard. David, we just did our segment, David, with Steve Merrill, Wager Talk, just knocked out the 5 major championship games. And he said it right there. He said, if you hit on even the major sports handicappers, if they're doing all the games, won't hit on any more than 55%. I'm hitting on 59%. I've been doing that every year for 40 years. So, yes, we are well above the mark where you cash a check. Definitely. I don't know what the record is exactly off the top of my head. It's like 134 and 100. It's about 58% against the spread. The money line is pushing 80%. If you do the math on that, shoot, I've got actually, if you go to my Twitter, I ran the numbers. Now, this I don't think includes last week. Oh, maybe it does. No, does not include last week. And I had a nice weekend. Last week, I think I went 12-6 against the spread. So my percentage is better than that, actually. So, bingo. This was going into last weekend at 100 per play. You're at plus 2,000 against the spread. You're 3,400 up on the money line. You're at 1,800 plus on the Steve Merrill under the radar selections. And again, that doesn't count last week. That again, I'll have to go back because I don't have a running total of my picks because I typically deliver those on Patreon and the YouTube channel membership. But last week I did them during the Ohio State Michigan pregame show and I just ripped them off. So I'm going to have to run through the pregame live stream and mark down my picks to see what I did. But I believe I was 12-6 against the spread last weekend. So there you go. We will have our championship picks coming up either later today or early on Friday for the Pac-12 championship on through the rest of the weekend. So I'm glad you asked, David. Yes, we were doing nicely, as we always do here at the Voice of College Football. I am in no way a handicapper or anything like that, but my track record is in the green by a ton. All right. I don't believe we've got anything else. Blue Wolverine, appreciate you being here. Thank you for the 5 spot. Sign that U of M helmet behind you and sell it to me. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you know, Blue Wolverine, because we want to be completely honest with you. So we got a little scratch there. So we've got, let's see. So we do have a scratch there. We want to be fully transparent. Otherwise, it's in basically mint condition. There you go. I sign these and sell them, huh? What can we get for them? They're probably worth, what did these cost? Maybe 18 to 22 bucks, something in that range. Probably with my signature, they're probably worth what? About $6. So Blue Wolverine, very nice. Well, we'll negotiate a price. Maybe it is right there. Maybe that was your price right there. David, this happened a few years ago when it must have been an Ohio State fan asked me, how much, Mark, would it cost for you to take that helmet and throw it in the trash? And I said, okay, well, here's the deal. If you want me to throw it in the trash, and then I'm just going to go in the trash and I'm going to take it right back out and I'm going to put it on the shelf, that's going to cost you $50. So if you just want to see me throw the Michigan helmet in the trash, that's going to cost $50. I said, if you want me to leave it in the trash, you have to understand that we have a large contingent of Michigan fans here, probably the largest fan base that we have here, Blue Wolverine and others. I thank you for being our largest fan base. I can say that pretty confidently. We haven't completely run the numbers, but we did receive correspondence with many of you when we were trying to total that up. And maybe I'll go on another campaign as soon as the season's over, and we will tally that back up. Largest fan base. Can I find those numbers? What do we got here? I'm going to send that out. I'm going to send that out because we have a list of responses. So we added up, and Michigan is number one with a nice little lead over Ohio State. I don't remember who's third, and then on down the line. And we've got it listed all the way down to whatever fan base only has one fan that responded, but it's pretty obvious with 43,000 subscribers here and about 100,000 total throughout the network that we didn't get responses. We got about 1,000 total responses. So we're going to have to go back on that. But I let this person know, hey, yeah, I'll throw it in the trash for $50 and I'm going to take it right back out of the trash. If you want it permanently disposed, and I'm going to insult my largest fan base and insult a major brand in college football and probably have all of those people turn their backs on me because I turned my back on them and leave the channel. I started doing calculations on it and I figured that's about worth $1 million. Need to pay me about $1 million to throw away the Michigan helmet permanently. That could be negotiated. Garrett George believes that the maize and blue colors have been slightly tinted through the years. Always like that. I know that Connor Stallions is watching us. Awesome Lawson clips. Quit stealing stuff, Michigan. Good to see John here as always. Join John. I hope all of you are every Tuesday. It's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time over on the Michigan channel. So please join John for the Michigan live show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Anything else? Anything else? Chris believes I can get $600 out of that helmet. Okay. We had a conversation about the helmets the other night. We'll see with the new set, whenever that takes place, whether the helmets leave or should we add the helmets, do something different with them. We just definitely have to change things up in some manner. We've got about 30 or 35, and I have to thank most of you for sending me most of those. I probably picked up about 8 to 10, and we have not sought any out for about a year and a half. The Rod Farva, I didn't know that Bo Schembechler, Bo Schembechler wanted to change the helmet when he was the first as the Michigan coach. Okay. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football again. We have covered all the conference championship games. We're going to have betting segments coming out. And we got a Big 12 channel. We got an SEC channel. The description section holds those links. Please check them out. And we will see you at 3:30 Eastern time over on the Iowa channel for more Big 10 championship previews.